February is Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and local authorities say the tri-state region is not immune to human trafficking.
More than 2,300 reports were made in Illinois, Missouri, and Iowa combined in 2021. That's according to the National Human Trafficking Hotline. WGEM's Charity Bell is live in Quincy with signs you can look out for to protect yourself and people you know from being trafficked. Charity?
Daniel and Mackenzie, police say when you're doing things like putting your groceries in your car, you could be a target for human trafficking. So they say be on the lookout for suspicious activity. But they say in most cases, people who are trafficked are exploited by someone they know. It's not often that people are randomly kidnapped and forced into human trafficking, something domestic abuse treatment center workers say is a dangerous misconception.
There's a lot of intention in planning. It's not something that just happens. The people who are trafficking others are being very targeted in how they're doing this.
Quinata CEO Megan Dusterhouse says human trafficking is whenever someone is forced, coerced, or manipulated into some type of labor.
So for Quinata, because we specifically focus on survivors of domestic and sexual violence, for us it's often working with people that have been sex trafficked.
She says locally she mostly sees people who have been manipulated into a relationship where trust is built and they don't realize they're being trafficked until it's too late.
Survival sex is another huge for this area. That would be like exchanging like rent for sex. So if your options are sleeping rough on the street or being coerced into sex by, your landlord, like which one is going to be worse? And, in inclement weather, like in the middle of winter in the Midwest, those can be very hard choices to make.
Adams County Sheriff Tony Grotens says it can also happen in areas of mass transportation, like bus stops and train stations.
If you're on a bus or a train and you see someone that just kind of out of character with a younger male or female and they don't look like they belong, I would absolutely contact authorities or let the conductor know or the bus driver or whoever and contact authorities to investigate it.
Quinata offers pamphlets like this to remind you what you should do in case you find yourself in a situation that feels unsafe. They say, remember, you are not alone. Remember the details so that you can report them to authorities who can get you help and to call 911. Live in Quincy, Charity Bell, WGEM News.
Thank you, Charity. Groton says traffickers target women, children, boys, and girls for a profit. According to the U.S. Department of State, here are some key red flags that could alert you to a potential trafficking situation that should be reported. Maybe an inability to speak to an individual alone, poor living conditions, signs of physical abuse. Officials say if you see something, say something. The National Human Trafficking Prevention Hotline number is 1-888-373-7888.